This is Douglas Noble for the NABWMT History and Legacy Project, and today we're interviewing Bruce Menapace of Cleveland. Bruce has been a member of both the San Francisco and Cleveland chapters over more than 10 years, and he is here in Kansas City attending the National Convention of NABWMT. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Douglas.
When did you first join BWMT? How did you hear about it? What occasioned your first contact? What was that contact like?
I was in graduate school in the Bay Area of California, and I had just started a master's PhD program in clinical psychology, and I was new to the area and realizing that I needed to do something more to have more social contact. And so I looked in the back of one of the local gay newspapers at the time. If I remember right, it was like the Bay Times, and they had a listing of different groups. And I've always been kind of a joiner over the years, having participated in student government in high school and so forth, and said, well, what organizations could I get involved with? And I was also taking a very interesting course in my first semester of graduate school called African American Lifespan Development. So I was learning about African Americans, their psychological processes, learning more about white racism, and I had just come to the Bay Area in California after having been in a relationship of about a year and a half's length in St. Louis with an African American man. And so it was natural for me to consider Black and White Men Together, San Francisco Bay Area, as a place where I might fit in and begin to feel more socially connected in the Bay Area. So that was in the fall of 1990. I guess there had recently been the previous summer, prior to my arrival in the Bay Area, a convention in San Francisco. And so I got to meet some wonderful folks, John Teamer, Tom Bean, just a variety of folks from the Bay Area, and they were doing chat nights, I think, on a weekly basis at that time. Excuse me, not chat nights, they were rap sessions back then. But, and so I got involved there, and I even had occasion to, I met Lee Wu and became friends with Lee very quickly. I had occasion to invite one of my graduate school professors who was teaching my African American Lifespan Development, professor, PhD, clinical psychology, African American woman, and she spoke about unconscious racism, I believe, and came and joined with us in one of our rap sessions. So that's kind of how I got interested and got involved and going to those programs and socializing and so forth.
Now, at that time, was that the time at which there were two BWMT chapters in the Bay Area? Wasn't there one in the East Bay that Lee Wu had founded, or was that later?
I think that was right, that there was also, I believe, it was MAC, SFBA. I think we had men of all colors together, if I'm not mistaken.
But you joined the chapter in San Francisco?
That's a good question, Douglas. I might have been joint members for a while because it wasn't very shortly that organization became defunct.
Which one now?
The MAC.
The one in the East Bay.
The East Bay one, whatever that was.
Right.
And Lee was really pushing more of a multicultural focus because Lee was a person of Asian descent, and wanted to have that perspective, give him more voice. He was also involved as executive director of BOSS's, Bay Area HIV Support and Education Services, which I ended up volunteering with for an HIV support group. And ended up doing HIV prevention work, outreach in the bathhouses and so forth, giving out condoms and talking to people about condoms. And so he worked with BOSS's in close affiliation and shared space. As I was saying, that Lee Wu was executive director at that time of Bay Area HIV Support and Education Services, which was first under, I believe, and probably talk to Lee and get this more definitive scoop, but was working closely with the National task force on AIDS prevention headed by Reggie Williams. And so, they had space that was very close together and doing things there. So, anyways, I got involved with Lee and so forth, and he got me into doing some of the facilitation, and certainly enjoyed and look back with really fun memories of rap sessions led by people like John Teamer, who had just an incredible presence. How he could put a point across about racism and never lose rapport with someone that he was talking about. Or if somebody got angry, if an African American got angry about a white person not understanding how something was racist, John could provide the bridge and kind of explain things. And so, marvelous mentors both, really.
Now these are rap sessions of the chapter in San Francisco that met over in the Haight-Ashbury, right?
That's right.
And what was the first, if you remember, what was the first event of the San Francisco chapter that you attended?
I can't remember the specific topic, frankly.
But it was a rap.
It was, definitely. It was definitely
at the church on Waller Street,
right?
Mm-hmm. And it was, and did they meet weekly?
Weekly, yes. And then
was it Thursday night or something
I think it was Friday night, and then we would go out to dinner afterwards.
Do you remember what your initial impressions were when you went to the first rap? Do you have any? I know you've given some impressions already, but
well, I remember that the discussion was rich, and very intellectually interesting and new, and I remember being guarded about sharing my opinion about, really, I come from a very, very white background, and, I graduated high school in a community that was suburb that was all white. I think there might have been one black community and no blacks in my grade in suburban Stowe, Ohio, of about 30,000. And so I didn't have a lot of exposure with African Americans. I had an African American roommate in college, but I attended the University of Dayton, where less than 3 or 4% of the students were African American. My African American roommate, once he took me on to the black side of town in Dayton to a party, and he was almost kind of to me like a guide through this world that I had no understanding about, and even probably felt somewhat unsafe in. Because my early socialization around race was one of fear, and the kind of issues that I grew up in suburban Akron and suburban Cleveland, Ohio, was that socialization was, people went to the big city of Cleveland, and somebody might rob you or steal your car, and somehow I had some understanding that it would be African Americans doing that. So I became aware very quickly in graduate school, which isn't so long ago, now, 13 years or so, that there were some untruths that I had to unlearn, and some emotional things that I had to work through. And so here was an environment where, people were pulling together to do that. And, part of it was, the romantic, physical charge of people being interracially attracted and so forth. And, I remember, kind of being like the new guy, and, people like at dinner placing their hands on my shoulder, squeezing my shoulder, and things like this, but nothing that was, off-putting, that didn't seem some kind of connecting with the group.
Had you been in any gay groups before?
I had been involved with Dignity for years and years, the gay and lesbian Catholic group. And I think actually one of the reasons that I pursued other organizations was that the mainstay of gay support that I had experienced in coming out into Dignity Cleveland and being involved with them in Seattle and St. Louis and then in the Bay Area was that Dignity San Francisco was very political. They were doing things like wanting to go over to Rome and pounding a statement on somebody's door, a la Martin Luther and the Reformation, and to me that was, I wanted community, local community. I wasn't about relating to others or outside institutions. I wanted, people that were social support on a local basis. And then the Dignity East Bay group was actually in the process of coming in. So that's when, my involvement in BWMT became actually.
Had you dated interracially before you came to BWMT?
No, I had prior to coming to graduate school, I had a 15-month relationship with Will in St. Louis. And I'd been very curious about how his black and white worlds were very separate. He, particularly his family, was kind of closed off from his gay world that had more white people in it. And even though I would call him at his home and talk to his mother all the time and be very friendly, he wasn't out to her and so forth. And so I was kind of curious about how African Americans were relating to their gay students. Kind of interesting to me. I had probably gone out with, when I lived in Seattle from 85 to 88, I had dated 2 African American men during that period. I also had dated a Puerto Rican fellow and a fellow who was Chinese, Hawaiian, Dutch, and Asian, and all combined. So there's always have been some involvement there, I think, with men of color. I don't know how all that is taking place, but I suppose men that I found attractive found me attractive, and a number of them happened to be men of color. Mm-hmm. Part of it, I think, is more traditional cultures have a little less rigidity around body image issues, and have always been kind of a husky guy. So I don't know. I've looked at other reasons and so forth. Right?
Well, what type of once you got into the San Francisco chapter, and apart from your activities with Bosses and East Bay, what type of activities were you involved in the San Francisco chapter? Did you hold office? What type of things did you do there?
I rapidly became a regular facilitator of craft nights, and I was involved and really enjoyed coming up with creative titles for different rap nights. Something I enrolled title, something along the lines of Shadows in Our Bedroom, Racism in Black-White Relationships, something like that. And oftentimes, it was back in those times, San Francisco was still somewhat of a sexually charged place. So we put a little sexual spin on it, jazz it up a little bit, pull out some of those dynamics. I did that for, oh my gosh, even when I had moved in 95 to Santa Cruz for a year's internship, I continued to actually help sustain the chapter at that time, because that was the primary activity, was our chat nights at those times. And we also had some other things going on, and then some new leadership came in terms of developing video nights and beer bus nights and so forth. But there was a period there where there were just a few board members and myself, and we were hanging on, doing some of these consciousness-raising rap sessions.
Well, what were the raps like? I mean, and I'm particularly interested in, for example, if you had topics related to racism, how forthcoming were people? How involved were the raps? Was there a lot of resistance, or were people really up front?
People were fairly up front, and people might get angry about something, and there'd be some lively discussion. People would be animated. We would sometimes use the fishbowl technique, where we would have maybe the whites sit in a center surrounded by the blacks, and the whites would talk about a topic, and then the blacks would enter the center circle and talk about the topic, and then we would talk about it all together about the different ways that we talked about it.
So in the fishbowl, the people in the center circle talk, and the people on the outside don't talk but listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a separate caucus, but the other group gets to listen.
Exactly.
How do you think those work?
I think it was pretty good. I think we need to have reasonable expectations where if somebody would get a little upset or just come to a little bit of a new insight or some new explanation and understanding of racism was achieved, we feel like we had made progress. And then there was a nice kind of social component afterwards. So it all went pretty well.
So your involvement with the San Francisco chapter pretty much went along in that same vein. Did you continue to do draft facilitating for most of the time you were there?
Yeah, 91 through probably like 95 or the spring of 96.
Were there any other activities there that you particularly remember? Chapter activities, things you were involved with, or just?
Oh yeah, we would have some nice house parties, and then the great tradition of the chapter was the New Year's Day black-eyed pea party, and John Teamer would be back in the kitchen with some dance music on. I think he used to say that the music had to have some bump, and here he would be shaking up chicken in bags, getting the flour coating on it, and sometimes he might have flour out his nose, and it was just a real big community cooking effort. And boy, could people cook! Black-eyed peas, greens, yams, cornbread. It was just, it's really all homemade and delicious, and we even had picnics that were similar. People make some really good food.
But the Black Eyed Pea Party was an annual San Francisco chapter tradition on, what, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day?
New Year's Day.
New Year's Day. And it's still going on, I believe, isn't it? Or is it?
I haven't seen an MAPT SFBA newsletter in recent times, but I think it is.
Mm-hmm. But was it started by John Teamer?
Boy, I think didn't it end up be calling the John Teamer Memorial Black-Eyed Pea Party? I mean, he was so many years, he was such a central force there. I mean, I don't know how to talk about his magnetism. I mean, he was a high school teacher that was recognized at his high school as being a person that people could talk to about gay issues. And he always had a smile for everyone, and just had such in-the-moment presence that was really special. And we were all sad, and when he passed away, and partner still living, we just heard recently. Michael Fu is still alive.
And of course, John was national co-chair.
National co-chair for a couple of terms.
Around 1990.
Right. And so he, the love with which Michael spoke of John at his memorial service, just very touching. We all appreciate that.
So you were in the San Francisco chapter from 1995?
Oh, I suppose I maintained a membership for a year or two afterwards.
So, I mean, you moved somewhere, I take it.
Yeah, I moved to Sacramento for another internship involved with my psychology training, and then in the fall of '97, I finished my PhD. Had one of the chapter members, Ray, had at his party center, we had a big going away party of 50 folks, and probably like 10 days later, I was starting a new job at Cleveland State University in the counseling center. And within that 10-day period, I attended a Midland Regional meeting in Cincinnati. And so I was trying to reconnect with a PWMT in my new Midwestern home, which is where my roots are.
Because by then you'd already been involved in the national too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll get to in a minute.
Okay. Very good.
But so what's been your experience in the Cleveland chapter? That's where you've been ever since. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, in Cleveland, when I arrived, Roger Key and Scott Bibbs were co-chairs, and Ralph Hunt was treasurer, and then I got involved kind of reactivating their chat nights and having some discussions. And boy, that was a tough row to hoe, because sometimes we would have 2 or 3 people. And I had seen the San Francisco Bay Area through a thin period for a while, and so my attitude was kind of the show must go on. And so developed the numbers, and now we do programming in collaboration with other groups. We've done collaborative programming with people from Blackout Unlimited, which is, I suppose, an Afrocentric, same gender-loving group in Cleveland. Done programming with them. We've done programming with people from Asians and Friends, Cleveland. And now we more recently have done more collaborative programming with the Gay and Lesbian Community Service Center of Cleveland, of Greater Cleveland. And let's see, 2 falls ago we received the Rainbow Community Award for our anti-racism work done in the Greater Cleveland lesbian and gay community.
So your work, at least initially in Cleveland, was the same type of rap facilitating that you did in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
And has that continued?
We more likely now have kind of special event discussions from time to time. Like, for example, African American History Month, I gave a lecture presentation on understanding anti-black racism today, and talked about the different ways in which people conceive of racism, and pulled out some of the literature that when we talk about, there is a written literature about racism and discrimination and some psychology around it, and talk a lot about those different concepts, the way of kind of illuminating the differences in the way that whites and blacks even perceive racism, and sometimes we're even talking about different things. And so that was a presentation I gave at the center, for example. We did a Melding the Color Lines program with a black presenter, myself as a white presenter, and a Filipino presenter. And so we're talking about ways of looking at issues of racism and how it manifests in our community. We more recently, African American history, we had a presenter who gave a presentation on black, gay, and lesbian history throughout the Midwest and around mid-century last. And so some rarely, not widely known facts about how things were in Detroit and so forth, maybe in the 30s and 40s.
Now, has the chapter been involved in all this and sponsoring it, or is this some of this is stuff you've done outside on your own?
Well, a lot of it, because then I did take on the mantle in the last 2 years. I was co-chair of the chapter, and so we did it in co-sponsorship with the Senate. They have a nice marketing machine, and their mail list goes out to many more people than we market to, and so trying to connect up and there are so many people doing different kinds of programs. If you can do things collaboratively, we get better turnout.
So are you still co-chair of Cleveland, or?
No, I'm not. I probably have a title of something like Educational Programming Director.
And how many members do you have, or have you had over the last few years?
I think we typically run around 30 paid members. And some of our bigger gatherings, like parties at the home of Clifford Blake, where we might do a joint party with BWMT and Asian Friends Cleveland, might have 75 people or something like that. But that would be more the exception than the rule. Most of our gatherings probably run around 25 people.
But the chapter is functioning.
Oh yeah, we have Scott Bivens and I were able to pass on the co-chairship to 28-year-old African American, and we've got a white co-chair in his late 30s, and we've got secretary who's African American in his late 20s, or social chairs in his mid-20s. My boyfriend Craig is my age, and he's our treasurer. And so we've got 6 people on it there.
What do you think? You seem to have maintained a fairly young leadership phase. That is an elusive goal for many chapters. What do you say to?
Flexibility. We were willing some more. And at the beginning of the calendar year 2003, we became people of all colors together, Cleveland. This is just conjecture on my part, but identity politics that are not broadly inclusive of all people have less appeal to younger people. And so, in the sense that the black and white men could be seen as exclusionary, that kind of seems to be more strongly held by younger people in the Cleveland area.
Are any of these new people that you've gotten not neither African American nor white, or is it just that they are, but the name is more appealing to them?
Well, we have a couple of women that have become members, and then we have, I don't know if it's 1 or 2 Latino members at this point. And I think we do have probably 2 or 3 Asian members, and maybe Filipino.
Well, let me ask you. Let's go back and trace your involvement with the national organization. When did that begin? What was your first involvement with the national?
Well, I came to my first convention in Detroit, and collaborating with Lee Wu. I can't remember if I did 1 workshop or 2. I certainly did do some facilitation in the multicultural caucus there. I probably did something else, but I can't recall specifically. But what a marvelous convention! The energy, all the positive energy that was there was just fantastic. It was palpable. It was almost kind of a rush, that there were friendly, polite people who were interested in each other.